Hello, I'm Richard Phillips, Director of Strategy here at the Association of British HealthTech Industries. I wanted to tell you about an exciting initiative we have for our SME members. It's what we call our Mentoring HealthTech programme and gives you the opportunity to buddy up with one of the larger companies in the sector and benefit from their expertise, experience and resource to help you on your own journey. Alongside the link to this recording, you'll find others which go into the programme in more detail, as well as outlining the very simple process you need to go through to register. You do need to be an ABHI member, but beyond that, there are no additional costs. Once you're signed up, we'll do our best to match you with an appropriate company that we think that best suits your needs. Beyond that, because this really is not one size fits all, it's down to you and your mentor to agree what your relationship looks like, as well as the scale and scope of the work you do together. What better way to bring it to life than to hear from someone who's been through the programme themselves? I spoke to Jonathan Williamson from Emblation, who part of the pilot process with Johnson & Johnson Medical. Jonathan, first off, tell us a little bit about Emblation, what you do, where you're based, your scale, all that kind of stuff.
Hi, Richard. Great to see you. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with your introduction there around the program. It's a fantastic initiative. So, to give you some background, Emblation are a small organization. I say small, we're actually just on the cusp of being a medium-sized organization. I think we may have just crossed over in the last week or so to becoming a 50-plus company. But we're an organisation based in central Scotland, and we develop, design, and sell microwave systems for healthcare. So we sell into dermatology clinics, podiatry clinics, and the other side of our business is oncology, selling into hospitals, into the hospital environment, and creating technologies for the OR. So we've a multifaceted business, small organisation with all the traditional difficulties that small companies have. I'm responsible for the commercial side of the business. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer. And I think the program for us was a perfect timing. We've transitioned from being, this time last year, we were 24 people. And we're now, as I say, just around 50, 51, 52 people. And throughout that time, it's been a real period of change for the organization. And I've had the fortune of being able to see the growth and see the change through the company. I've been with Emblation for over 10 years now. So I've seen the different phases, the different patterns and the shift in time. And I think that importantly, if we think about a program like this, supporting change and being able to support different types of organization is the really important thing for me. So further context, at 24 people and throughout my initial phase in the company, we were a very small company. We started off obviously looking to survive, moving through that early growth phase to the point where we had nice product market fit. We'd launched in 4 countries at that point, revenue of around 6.5 million, and as I say, 24 people. And we moved from being an organization looking at organic growth or seeking organic growth to then having private equity funding, which really accelerated our growth. So that shift in itself is something for an organization like us to a challenge for us to harness. But the big thing for me was people and culture and how that shifts inside the organization. The culture needed for an organization of 24 people is very different to the culture needed for success in an organization of 50 people. And then our ambition here is to go further than that. We are projecting over 100% year-on-year growth. And in terms of people, we should be at around about 100 people or so, maybe this time next year. So that culture needs to shift. The way our organization operated had to change. And we saw this program as an ideal opportunity to provide a platform for that change.
Well, that's great. It's a very detailed exposition there, Jonathan, of how you found it of value. So you teamed up with Johnson & Johnson. The driving force, I think, behind the program was Hugo Breda, our board member, who is very, very passionate about this. So just tell us a little bit about what the program looked like. Actually, what did you actually do from the onset? Then just how long did it go on for, and what are things looking like now?
Sure, and fantastic testament to Hugo Breda and the UK J&J team for pushing this initiative. I initially heard about the initiative when Hugo was seeking election to the ABHI board, and I spoke to a colleague of his, Amy Peters, around this idea they had for some form of mentorship between J&J and smaller organizations. And as soon as I heard, I said, listen, I'd be happy to jump on. I'll give you some advice on what I think that program should look like, as well as an idea of what it feels like to be an SME versus what it feels like to be a huge multinational in the UK. And in return, you need to use me as your first pilot center. So that worked out well for us, and I was delighted to be accepted into the program. So from a process perspective, our program was a year, just over a year or so we had. And again, I think the point you made in your introduction around flexibility, again, is very important, because particularly if you consider the SME landscape across the UK, the vast majority of health tech companies, the huge majority of health tech companies are SMEs. And SMEs are very, very different in nature, depending on size, depending on industry sector, segments, and of course, depending on the stage that they're at in terms of their growth. So having that flexibility to work with the mentor company is very important. So we definitely had an initial phase where we thought about how we were going to make this program, how we were going to make it fit, how we were going to structure it. But the key themes for us were always there from the start, which were culture, people, and practices. I think from our perspective as a business, we really, the three things that we really have to focus on are people, partnerships, and those processes that support them. So we wanted to fit that into the program, and we wanted to have an open discussion with the team at J&J as to how we would do that. And it started from our perspective, and from a pilot perspective, it started with the senior leadership, with having Hugo's input, which was really valuable and important for the program. And we thought about the different types of themes and how they could delineate into a program of value. So we settled on culture, and we thought about the things that underpin culture. But I think from both sides, it was always important to have tangible outcomes. So we tried to think about what the real tangible outcomes for a program about culture would be for us. Things like our first culture survey that was launched, really understanding practices and processes from an HR perspective as well, thinking about how we recruit people and then how we onboard people, and designing a program for onboarding those new staff. These are all things that, of course, we've considered, but you just don't have the resources in an SME to be able to flex to having that breadth of that breadth of planning that company like J&J has, and the resources that they have. So those things all fit in. We set about with a year program, went through the months, and had a topic for every month. We started off with a meeting every week for the first 6 months, which was time intensive, labor intensive, but really good for building the relationship with the colleagues and the team. So I think that a regular frequency was great. We then shifted to having larger monthly meetings with weekly check-ins. And I think that having a nice balance like that was great as well, because we did manage to build a relationship at the start, and then we could rely on that relationship as we moved through, because everyone on the team are busy executives, busy people. And I think if one member of the team was busy or had a heavy week or a heavy month, we could rely on the rest of the team. And that was the great thing that we built over time, which really was a testament to the program and a testament to both the concept and all the individuals involved, particularly on the J&J side, who gave us their time to make it happen. And from the Emblation side, I gathered more and more participants as time moved on. So 2 of the C-suite were involved. So we had a high level at all times to ensure that we could try and implement the change. And a number of the other managers were involved as well. So really good input and, as I say, a good endorsement for the program and the concept.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. I mean, you've been a real strong advocate of the program. So maybe just to round off, I know you covered a bit of this anyway, but there'll be people watching this, listening to this, thinking, golly, do they mean us for this scheme? Just what would you say to companies who are thinking about it, and maybe a couple of watch outs, things they really need to think about before they enter it?
Sure. I think with any of these programs, any of these initiatives, it really relies on both parties to put the effort in, to put the hard miles in. I think that particularly goes from the mentee's perspective, from the SME's perspective, because you need to take the opportunity and run with it. So, and in order to do that, you have to have very enthusiastic members of the team, and you have to have people who are willing to put some dedicated time into the program as well. It needs that, and it needs that for it to work. I think one of the big examples, or one of the big challenges that we sort of see across the program for further SMEs and for new SME companies would be to ensure there's no direct conflict of interest, and to keep it on things like the softer skills as opposed to business development opportunities that exist between the two organizations. I think with a company like J&J and with, I'm sure, the other mentor organizations that will be involved in this, there will be many opportunities for cross business development. I think you want to avoid that at all costs. I think you want to keep this on looking at where the gaps the organization you're in has, and then trying to fill those by looking at the expertise that a company like J&J has. And I think it's critical as well to not just copy processes and practices, but try to walk the path with them, try to lean on their expertise and use them as a sounding board. What J&J were excellent at were providing us with good examples, good process examples, or ideas of how this has worked, and then we would talk about and think about how this could fit to a company of our size with our different challenges. But we were always very conscious not to just copy J&J processes or copy J&J ideas on culture, but really to take the people who had made that happen, the specific people who had made those things happen, or the specific people who were, enacting change at a company like Johnson & Johnson, and try to get them to think about the challenges that we had, and to then discuss, have almost a safe space to discuss and to brainstorm ideas on how to make improvement. And then finally, I would say ensure that you have 3 or 4 tangible outcomes from the program, so that you can stand at the end of your 12 months or your 6 months or whatever the length of time will be, and say, well, this is what we achieved with this. There are these things that we've achieved, and there's so many more things as well. So there's the softer things like the upskilling of the employees on the call on both sides. I think that's relevant to say on both sides. It's a good leadership opportunity for the mentor, and of course the knowledge gained from the mentees in areas that are perhaps slightly more foreign to them. But I think having those tangible outcomes is very important for the success, to show that this is a valuable exercise, because one thing SMEs don't have, and the people within SMEs don't have, is a lot of time and a lot of additional space for these types of activities. So it has to provide value. It has to be for a company who are at the right time and phase. It was perfect for us because we were going through this transitionary period, and it supported our growth from that perspective. So the timing couldn't have been better, and I think it's important to consider all those things.
Jonathan, thank you so much. You really did. I said at the start, you really have brought that to life, and you've given companies some really good hints there on how to make this successful. And it's great. Again, thank you for taking part in the program. You've helped us learn a lot, but it's also great to hear it's been so valuable to you at a really, really exciting time for your company. And we wish you every success there in the future. I know you'll be following the scheme closely.
Thanks, Richard.